Hi folks,
Hi everyone.
welcome to ViewOf2 Impromptu.
Uh-huh.
We're sitting here on a beautiful winter's day and looking forward to having a chat about something that's a hot topic at the moment, and
Yeah.
especially with this whole impending, with the whole lockdown that's occurred over
Yes.
the last 5 months now, I guess.
A long time.
long time. We're on day, goodness
Something.
knows, 200. Something like that. The last time we spoke about the bug and the lockdown was on day 89, as far as I remember. And at that stage, I'm not too sure that we were having to wear masks. In fact, I don't think we were going anywhere at that stage because most people had locked themselves down in their home.
Yeah.
And so we didn't witness the widespread mask wearing scenario that we have at the moment.
That's so, put it. Yeah.
So what we were going to discuss today with the impromptu was, look, once again, we haven't done copious amount of research into
Let's say we've done the minimum.
Well, I've looked in.
You've done a bit more.
It's concerned me, so I have looked into it to make sure that I'm not being irresponsible. But
okay, I will be the irresponsible one.
Because we're at the point now where what interested me was, before the lockdown was official, I remember going into shops like Woolworths, and big signage up: our staff will not be wearing masks or gloves, as the World Health Organization has informed us that it doesn't help against such a virus because the gauze are too big for the protection of anyone against the virus. They then obviously changed their tune a few months later and stated the very opposite. And so every shop that I've been in, every public place that I go is prescribed the wearing of these masks. Yeah.
So the impromptu today is us just talking about masks and our feelings about them.
Yeah, our thoughts on them and what we've heard about them and how we feel about them.
Yeah.
So from my point of view, I've done a little bit of digging on the net. It's more of an alternative source as well as the mainstream media, to see what the difference was between what people were saying about what the effect of the mask is and the protection level that it gives. And so what I've realized is that there's a number of different types of masks that people wear.
Yeah.
The most common one I've seen is this cloth mask.
Yeah.
But the medical professionals use what they call
Here's a cloth mask.
Yeah.
that Hiram wears.
That thing,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so medical professionals use what they call an N94 and an S2. And that thing...
Here's one that I wear.
I don't know what that is.
It's a mask.
That's even more difficult to breathe through than most things.
Yeah.
So from what I've seen from mainstream medical and mainstream media is that they've said that they've proved that the N94 and the S2 or S4, I can't remember what the numeration was, but can protect against 94% of the viruses out there.
Oh, just in general.
In general.
Oh, not the bug.
Well, the bug
is part of it.
Yeah. Well, the COV.
That bug.
Iteration.
Yeah.
So, but the other side that I've seen is that doctors are arguing that nothing can protect them from the bug because the gauze are too big. It's like trying to protect yourself from a mosquito using chicken mesh as a protection method. So there's lots of varying feelings on it. But what I've mainly discovered was that the detriment the mask is to you outweighs the protection it gives you. And that is that it inhibits your immune system up to 50%. So wearing the mask causes your immune system to become deficient up to 50%, which seems counterproductive because your immune system needs to be 100% or close to it in order to protect you from the 18,000 known viruses, bacteria, and ailments that are out there. And so the quagmire is, from one side you're being told that it does protect you, and from another side you're being told that it doesn't protect you. And so we're sitting in the middle here going, well, what's best for me, and what do I decide I'm going to do?
Yeah.
But the other problem is that you can't go anywhere out in public without wearing a mask legally. And there's the government has stipulated that there's this requirement based on the World Health Organization's advice, which has changed.
Which flips and flops.
Yeah, it's like a flip-floppy.
Yeah. All right.
So that's where we're sitting at the moment.
Yeah, so I guess I will be representing those of us who have done less than our due diligence in understanding, which masks are best, why they're best, and what have you. Hiram, I think, has covered that.
Are masks even worth putting on?
Well, I mean, that's really the crux of the question. But before we get there, what I understood the whole point of wearing masks was to protect others from yourself,
from your contamination.
From your contamination. And of course, if you're told that you don't even know whether you're contaminated or not, and so that's why you have to wear this mask to protect this other person. We were then told that you could cloth masks, I don't know if I'm saying that correct, was probably the best thing. I was one of those people who was shown how to make their own cloth masks. We all saw this on social media, how you could make one. And we all know
I've even seen how to make one out of a sock.
I know, right? And so it seemed at the beginning that it didn't matter what type of mask you were wearing, as long as you were covering your nose and your mouth. And that was because they said it spreads in those ways. If you touch your face, that's how you would get it. And so this whole thing was about being conscientious, being a civil, the best civil, what's the word I'm looking for? Because it's not servant, that's, but doing your civil duty. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of others and protecting others from something that you could be having. So it was never about, if I'm wearing a mask, it's because I'm afraid of what you can give me. It was because I'm afraid of what I can give you, and so I'm trying to protect you. And you are wearing a mask yourself so that you can protect me from whatever you supposedly have. Now, because this bug is this special thing that most of us don't even know we have,
80% of us are carrying the genetic marker for it. So and also there's a false positive rate of 80% with the current testing system. So it's like,
I didn't know that.
Who knows?
Yeah. So then the question became, is this mask really protecting the other person? And as I'm trying to perhaps protect Hiram, what is the mask doing to me? And that's really where we find ourselves with this conflicting scientific evidence, because science itself is not in agreement.
Well, the jury's out on a lot of stuff.
On a lot of stuff.
Or it's just been falsified.
Yeah, but we have certainly heard of people who are driving with masks on.
Wearing gloves as well as masks.
Yeah, but fainting. Like we've heard of people who've passed out while they're driving because they've had the mask on for too long. We've heard of people who exercise, like go running and jogging with their masks on, pass out. Because you're not getting the flow of oxygen in and the CO2 out, it stays. And I have a friend whose mom is a nurse, and she said in hospitals, when you wear a mask, you're told to wear a mask for a certain amount of time, and then you need to take your mask off. So the question becomes, is wearing a mask for almost 20, well, okay, let me not over-exaggerate.
Say 8 to 10 hour workday.
Is this a good thing for you? Are you really protecting others, and are you protecting yourself, or are you doing more harm to yourself? And if one of the things that I've said is that most of the bug goes through anyway, because there's nothing fine enough to protect you or the other person from, or how can I put it, to protect
contamination,
the contamination or the bug flowing out of your mask, since I'm wearing it to protect you. If I cough, if I breathe, it's going to come out. Why are we wearing these masks?
If you cough, it's going to come out the side anyway. And
Why are we wearing these masks?
Well, from my opinion, might sound a bit extreme, but it's become almost like a badge of conformity and servitude and almost shame. It's it's like
wearing the mask
it's this badge of conformity. And so if you don't wear it now and you're seen in public, I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
And I get this look of absolute horror. You are so responsible. You're putting our lives at risk. When the point is that by wearing the mask, you're putting your life more at risk than by not wearing it for other reasons completely.
Yeah. You know, so I think maybe if you'll allow me to perhaps change this into more of a social commentary.
Well, that's where it's ultimately heading. Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No. That's the segue is good because it's going into that.
Yeah.
So there's the medical side of it. There's the practical or impractical side of it.
Yeah.
But then there's also the social aspect.
Yeah. Where what I see is that we are very divided as a society on masks. Admittedly, most of us aren't medical professionals. We're not scientists, and so depending on what feels better, we'll either go with this side or that side. Yeah. But what I'm seeing is we're starting to otherize ourselves based not on scientific fact, but on an allegiance. Yeah. What's the right word?
Yeah.
Allegiance. Yeah. And like Hiram is saying, we're starting to judge each other in terms.
We judge our moral standing by how we wear a mask.
But by whether we wear a mask or not. I remember standing somewhere completely away from people, and I think I was waiting to do one of the ViewOf2s, and
yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And the looks that I got, it was as if.
And this was still in the beginning, though.
The very beginning.
So we hadn't gone through this whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling as though people were seeing me as some sort of villain,
yeah.
Evil person, a person who doesn't care about her fellow human beings and I'm like, you're in the car driving past. How am I possibly affecting you or harming you in any way?
And you're wearing a mask and you're wearing gloves. So how my windows up, how's it gonna affect you?
How are you affected by me standing waiting for you?
It's not about the practical side of it.
Yeah.
It's the social now.
It's the socialness. And are we really starting? But there's another part, to be fair. For those people who vehemently, believe that wearing masks is bad for you and the rest of society, get incredibly angry when they see people wearing masks. It's this huge war, this huge divide that has very little, it would seem, to do with health and science issues and everything to do with what we judge
how they can extol their ideals on from both sides.
From both sides, and are we really the type of people who will let something like this divide an already divided nation?
Clearly we are. Sadly.
Yeah.
Because if you look around you, it's almost like a conformity has come into place. For example, you go to the ocean and you'll see people playing on the rocks with masks on. You're like, do the fish give you this bug? I mean, I don't understand. So in other words, it's not practically being used. It's now a social conformity.
To the point where
now this could be the new normal. What the heck? Now everywhere you go and every time you go out, you must wear a mask purely because that's the accepted.
That everyone is
like you got to wear pants. You can't go out naked because you'll be arrested for indecent exposure. Or you're going to be now arrested for indecent exposure because you're not wearing this third piece of equipment.
Yeah, and also I'm sorry if we seem like we're jumping around, but more on the social side still.
Yeah,
masks have become a fashion statement.
That's just the most scary. A shirt matching.
Because
I just want to cry.
Drip is forever.
Yeah.
And so how many of us are actually consciously aware of why we're wearing masks, and how many of us are wearing masks in order to conform
and comply?
What is the reason as individuals that we wear masks? And if you are at the beach by the rocks why is your mask on if there's no one else around you?
Yeah.
Because, like I said in the beginning, what we were told, maybe it's changed. We were wearing masks to protect other people. It wasn't about protecting yourself. It was protecting the other person from yourself.
Can you get more socially distanced than 300 meters away from the crowd on the rocks? You know, it's like, what?
Yeah. You know, I don't know if you all saw this, but there was this video passing around of this man. I don't know where he was, but he was in I think a
pharmaceutical.
Well, he was in some sort of pharmaceutical. I'm sorry, I'm not going to mention it because I can't remember where it was, and I don't remember which province he was in. And he wasn't wearing a mask.
But he was doing it as a defiant act because he was pulling up on his phone. This is now we've won the court case.
Yes. But what I thought was interesting, there were two things. One, his refusal to wear a mask in the shop got everybody around him so angry.
Who were wearing masks.
Well, everybody else was wearing a mask. And the first thing that, I don't know if you all saw it the way I did it. At first, it seemed as though he was having this confrontation with the black person. And so it seemed as if it was a racial thing. But later on, in that same video, a white woman came.
A cop.
Was it a cop?
Yeah,
I don't know. But there
was a police officer,
there was a white woman who sided with the black man. And the most amazing thing in South Africa happened, where blacks and whites united, and it had nothing to do with rugby.
Over a mask.
It had nothing to do with rugby, you know. And they united and said, what you're doing is irresponsible. And he was trying to say, I don't know if the rest of you have heard of this court case that was brought in front of the High Court in Pretoria by David.
David, yeah.
I'm sorry. We don't know your name, David, your surname. But he brought up against the lockdown more than against the masks themselves, and was saying the lockdown is unconstitutional. And the High Court judged it in his favor and said he was correct as far as the lockdown was concerned. And so technically everything that's happening in the lockdown is unconstitutional. Then I know that the government had 7 days to...
2 weeks, 14 days.
14 days to respond. I don't know if they've responded. So that's another thing.
That was about a month and a half back.
Yeah. But this gentleman was trying to say everything that has got to do with the lockdown is unconstitutional, and therefore I'm allowed to walk around without a mask. But the cop and this gentleman who I think was working for the store,
I think he was a security personnel.
They said that this man, because he refused to wear a mask, should not be served.
It's like, what?
That is what I think is frightening. Whether or not you believe in wearing a mask, are we really those type of people who, if somebody doesn't do what I want them to do in the way that I want them to do it, and if you are a pharmacist, so you're obviously there for medical reasons, I refuse as your fellow citizen
to serve you your medicine,
to help you,
your prescription,
because you're not doing what I want you to do. That, I think, for me is really the scary part and the scary thing about masks. But it's also a very interesting thing, because we've added on top of our racial issues in South Africa, we've added another
new
fight,
layer, yes.
You know.
But what else scares me is that this is a precursor to what comes next. And in the pipeline, the World Health Organization, along with other organizations being run by Bill Gates, are developing a vaccine, which is the next level of, are you complying with this particular vaccination? So for me, it's like almost like a preparation. So we're preparing you with getting you used to wearing a mask and otherizing people and calling them out if you don't. And then it's going to the next level where it's now this vaccination coming in. So, you know, my personal thing for myself, I am not a fan of wearing masks for myself. This has got nothing to do with whether it should or shouldn't be worn, and whether the viewer says they want to wear a mask or don't want to wear a mask. I am willing to comply. If I go to a shop that says to me, please, you can't enter if you don't wear a mask, I am not necessarily going to have a huge fight with the security guard whose only job is to ensure this for his livelihood.
But I really want to know how many of us are thinking about these dangers of being forced to comply with something that deep down inside you might feel for health reasons is not good for you. How many
or
of us,
for social reasons?
Yeah.
For both, because it might only be the physical side of it. It's also the mental, you might not necessarily agree with it on a social level just as much as you wouldn't agree with it on a medical level.
Yeah.
Because of how it's
dividing
worn.
us.
It's like this badge, as I said, a badge of servitude.
Yeah. Well, I think for those who believe in wearing it, they don't necessarily see it as a badge of servitude, but it could also be a badge of solidarity.
No, but for me, it's and for people who think like me, it is a badge of conformity and servitude, and becomes shameful.
Yeah.
So that's from my point of view. Everyone obviously has their own perspective, but that's how I've seen it play out.
What I've seen, I'm obviously on the would rather not, but I do think for other people they see it as solidarity. They see it as protecting our fellow citizens from if I'm being honest, I don't know if you really guys see it as protecting your fellow citizens or if you're thinking of it as protecting myself.
Absolutely.
If we're going to be honest about this, because if you're wearing a mask in the car and you're driving by yourself, who of your fellow citizens are you protecting? And also, this is your car that you drive in every day. How are you protecting yourself? So how honest are we about why we wear masks? How many of us wear it out of fear? Because if I'm being honest, the fear is that if I don't wear a mask, I'm going to be ousted. I'm going to be otherized.
Called out.
I'm going to be called out. I'm going to be marginalized. And I'm not going to be served. And for no other reason than the fact that I'm not wearing a mask. Not because people think I'm...
And 90% of the time it's from who told you not to wear this mask. It was your government. It was the people that you're paying to give you the best advice possible. And from my perspective, they haven't done that. They failed dismally in that respect.
No, I agree with you. Especially, South Africans specifically, but just around the world. How many of you have heard from the main media? Is that what it's called?
The mainstream media.
Mainstream media. I'm sorry, people. An opposing view from mainstream media. So forget those of us who then go and do extra research. Just from mainstream media, how many people have heard both sides of this medical debate about the bug itself, how it affects people, about the lockdown, and how it helps or doesn't help as far as the bug is concerned, about masks? Have you had doctors, medical specialists, scientific biomedical people, I'm obviously not saying this correctly, who have been on opposite sides of this argument, sitting on mainstream media and saying, this is what we believe, the other saying this is what we believe, and therefore you have the right as a citizen of this country to make an informed decision.
And
I have not seen it on mainstream media.
I can say from my side that from the observation and the studies that I didn't find one on mainstream media.
Yes.
Not one. And to the point where I had to actually go to alternative media, but not only alternative media, social media platforms have gone out of their way to try and quash the information that's trying to sound against the mainstream media. And so I had to go into the websites of these people who were giving the alternative point of view and are being marginalized and are being shadow banned and what have you. And to find the information to compare to what they're saying on mainstream media.
Yeah.
And most will say, yes, that's because they're what they're teaching is contrary to what the mainstream media are teaching. It's dangerous for you. And I'm saying, no. But in every argument, you need to have both sides. So whether it be a global warming argument, a racial argument, a health argument, you need to have two sides to be able to make an educated guess or to make an educated choice. So
once again, mainstream media, as far as this is concerned, I found to be very disappointing. You know, it has not been journalistic in its presentation of this situation at all. It's been more sensationalist.
Sensationalized.
Yeah, and it's almost as though it's just been telling a story just to tell a story, but not there to actually inform you, and inform us. I am bitterly disappointed in that particular fact. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. So people would like you to.
Okay.
What's that?
Oh, are you about to close?
Yeah. Would you have something else to say?
Oh, well, I would like to. Okay, go ahead.
Because I'm just thinking that what we'd like to do is start a conversation on the channel in the comments section where you can then give us your idea of how the mask has affected you, or how you feel about the mask, or how you feel about on a social level as well as on a medical level.
How many of you have actually gone out to understand how masks work and have done the research?
Yeah, no, you haven't just heard it from one source. That's the way it is.
Yeah,
I'm going to now comply because it's the best for us. Inform yourselves, educate yourselves, and find out from the alternative side as well what's best for you.
Yeah, and which mask and why this mask and when this mask and why masks were worn to begin with. And also, like Hiram is saying, what is your social understanding of this? I think that for me is the really intriguing one. Is where do individuals stand? How do you feel when you see someone wearing a mask, or how do you feel when you see someone not wearing a mask?
The other thing is, do you see yourself being socially engineered in a specific direction by wearing the mask?
Yes.
You know, it's like a massive psyop to me, where you're pushed in a direction. It's almost like an MK Ultra type thing going on, where you feel like, what? As I was saying to you today, a year ago, would you have imagined that we'd be living in a dystopia where you walk? We went into McDonald's, you stand on this queue, the guy's ordering you. I felt like I was a victim of a Gestapo. You will stand there, you will wear your mask.
Wow.
You will go in
really?
So there was like but there's a footpath leading this way and that direction, and then it's almost like you come there like a military style. You order your thing, and the woman says, "Now go stand over there." And I was like, "Okay, can I just put my change away?" Okay, now and everything was closed off with the tape,
so you couldn't sit
with crime tape, like it was a big crime scene. And I said a year ago, I would never have even dreamed that this is possible. Now it's the new normal.
Yeah.
By a flu bug that has been blamed to lock us down and to make us wear masks and to social distance and to not do business, possibly lose business, lose possessions, lose your sanity.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, a year ago. You're saying a year January would have never thought of it.
Well, I'm just using it as a year. Look, but a year ago, I'm thinking, what was I doing a year ago? Merrily getting along with my life, successful business.
Yeah.
Everything's going wonderfully well. Can breathe fresh, clean air. Now it's like, oh my God, it's almost like this. We've had Armageddon.
Or at least the beginning of Armageddon.
Tell me about it.
So and also, as I said, drip is forever. How many of you wear masks?
How many of you
for fashion?
A Gucci mask?
Yeah, for the fashion statement. And also, how many of you care? Do you care? Or are you happy to just comply?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, we this has been an interesting one.
It has. And we would like to hear from you, and we would also appreciate if you would subscribe to our channel.
Yes. And
hit the notification button and share this.
Please
with us,
What I'm dying to hear from you. We're both dying to hear what you guys have to say about it. So yeah.
Thank you for spending half an hour with us, and we will see you soon.
Bye.
Take care. Bye now.